So it's, I enjoy the development game, helping people develop themselves, and doing whatever it is that they want to do in their life and not really having any regrets for what that is.
See, I think that's beautiful because you've done what I've done. You took your passion and you made it, you ate, drank, slept. Your passion. You're doing what you love. And it's so cheesy and corny, but it is. If you can find your passion and find a way to get paid for it, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's so cheesy, but it's true.
No, it's totally true. And a lot of people, they don't realize that they can get paid for their passion. And you know what, today there's more of an opportunity to do that than ever before. And
tremendous.
It's your fault if you don't take advantage of that.
It is. And not everybody has that kinetic link to their passion. Maybe they don't even really have a passion. Maybe they're okay with working in an office cubicle, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But some people are not wired that way. They cannot do a 9-to-5 job. I am such a person. I can't do it. Believe me, if I had to go back to a 9-to-5, I'd blow my brains out. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's certainly not for everybody. And that's totally okay. At the end of the day, if doing the other stuff was for everybody, we wouldn't have so many problems to solve in this world.
Well, so take a quick look right now. Look at where we are with this COVID, especially in the early stages of it. A CEO of a company is not as important as a grocery clerk who shows up to put the fruits and veggies out.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, they're chancing coming to work. So, it's an interesting thing. There's room for everybody on this big old planet.
It's true. And again, if you have a passion for whatever, collecting flags, you can make a business out of it, right? You just have to figure out what your thing is.
Yeah.
So for you, you seem to have multiple passions, but you're sort of found this one that keeps you cooking.
Yeah, that's the deal. When I was a kid seeing Rocky for the first time, I saw it on television. It was 79. I was 11 years old, and something clicked inside. It was this switch that went off, and I had never been I felt inspiration like that. But you have to wonder why. I was an 11-year-old kid from like a lower middle class family. We didn't have a lot of money, but my parents had a tremendous amount of love for my brother and I. So they always made sure bills were paid and that we even had a vacation down to the Jersey Shore every year. But what's the connection to Rocky? You know what I mean? Why would an 11-year-old kid from a very quiet household have this connection to Rocky? And it all starts with a book. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
In 1972, this book came out, and my mother used to read this book to me every night before bed. And it has a lot of like underdog themes.
Yeah.
It's very Rocky relatable. It's about a seagull who wants to fly higher and further than any other seagull in his group. But he's told by the seagull elders, his job is to hover over the boats, bring food back to the seagull community, and that's it. Well, long story short, he becomes the greatest of all seagulls because he broke away from the ranks of the being told what to do. So when I was old enough, what the words my mother read to me as a kid really just embedded themselves in my DNA. And then it registered to Rocky. And that was the connection to Rocky, I think.
Yeah, I think too, I love the underdogs personally. I love those underdogs. I always said like I should probably title my show The Underdog Show, because those are really the types of people that I interview and that I enjoy personally being around. There's just something special about them, right? There's a different way in which they see the world.
Right. I think the underdog has much more going against them. They have to prove it. They have to set out to prove themselves, and that's good. That's life. That's the world that we live in. And I think you just inherently root for the underdog because you see yourself in the underdog or parts of it. Now, you may not be a top 10 contender and a boxer. You may not be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, but maybe you're going for that promotion at work, and you got to come up with the right presentation. Or maybe you're a police officer who wants to become a detective. You can find a relation to Rocky somehow. It's like he says in Balboa, it's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get it and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Okay, that's how winning in Rocky, that's how it's done in the world.
Yeah.
I believe in that tremendously.
So for you, I have a question that I'm interested in. I've watched the documentary, The Pretender, a couple times, and I'll tell you how I stumbled upon it. My wife was watching it one Saturday morning. I hear all this noise coming from downstairs. I think the mafia is hanging out in my living room, and all of a sudden I come down. What's this? She's like, you got to watch this. So I'm a Rocky guy. I think like most guys, all right? We love Rocky. We love what he stands for. And I'm hooked, right? I'm hooked watching this. And the question that I took away was, I had one question. I said, how come you didn't decide to do this as Mike and you decided to do it as Rocky?
For the tours?
No, just the whole thing. Because as I'm talking to you, you're a motivational guy. You're an inspirational guy. You have a good vision, and it seems like you have a desire to motivate, inspire, and encourage people. At what point did you sort of say, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this as, a Rocky character as opposed to doing it as Mike?
So, two things. One, insecurity. You couldn't find a mother and father who would have given me more love and built up my emotional whatever issues I had as a kid. The problem was that my switch for security just never turned on. To this day, I never think I'm really any good at it. So, but as Rocky, you see, I could hide behind Rocky because as Rocky, when he says it, you believe it.
Yeah.
When Mike Kunda says it, he's just an idiot. That's how I see myself in my head, okay? The other thing is, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting if I could bring people from around the world to see these Rocky locations? And the first day I did it, the very first maybe 10, 15 tours, I stayed as Rocky the whole time. And then every once in a while, my wife would come by and she would like take a tour if she wasn't working. She'd sit in the back and tell her stories. And then at the end, she goes, hey, would you like some feedback? Now, I've been with my wife for 31 years, and whenever your wife says, would you like feedback? That's it.
Yeah.
So she goes, just one question. Why did you stay in Rocky character? And I go, well, nobody cares about Mike Kunda. They want a Rocky tour guide. And she goes, no. The guy wanted to talk to you. He was trying to have a conversation, and you kept going as Rocky. And then I realized I sounded like a mental patient, because I was using only Rocky's lines from the movies to answer his questions, which had nothing to do with Rocky's lines from the movies.
Right.
So she said, Mike, why don't you integrate? Do a little bit of Mike and a little bit of Rocky. So now how my tours are to this day, I probably do maybe a few seconds of Rocky, and it's more me because my security is being built.
Yeah, that's cool. And how old are you now?
50. I'll be 52 August.
That's crazy, right? That it's been a 52-year journey to build these levels of security. And I think I got to tell you, I appreciated the movie, and I also appreciate how open you are here, because there's a lot of people running around with masks on.
Yeah.
And sort of they're feeling the same thing that you're feeling. You're just putting on the mask of Rocky, and you're embracing it. Other people put on a mask and they don't embrace what's behind it.
It's true. It's true. And again, I got tired of running and hiding from my insecurities and trying to be something I wasn't. So I don't know if I'm the best Rocky tour guide. I certainly don't think I'm the best Rocky impersonator. I'm the best I can be. And
Yeah.
for me, that's good enough. That I don't know if I'll ever win an award at it. I really don't care. I got my award
Yeah.
because becoming friends with Stallone and having him promote the movie, The Pretender, because he loves it so much. When your idol comes to you and says, "Tell me about your tours." What? That was on the set of Rocky or of Creed 2. That
Okay.
was in the morning when they were filming Drago and Rocky confronting each other in the restaurant. They took a break and Sly went outside for about 45 minutes. And we had started talking, and he had already endorsed my Rocky tour on his Instagram. And so I had talked to him, and I said, "Sly, why did you do that?" And he goes, "Mike, I'm not going to live forever." He goes, "And I got to tell you," he goes, "I love knowing you're out there keeping Rocky alive." He goes, "You're like an ambassador to Rocky, man." He goes, "And I'm on my deathbed." He goes, "I like knowing that."
Wow,
Okay.
that's cool.
It was crazy. It was crazy. So, and then on April 2nd, Stallone endorses via his Instagram, The Pretender.
Mm.
So then we got a bounce, and Amazon, we began trending on Amazon for a week.
Wow.
And now we're in the home stretch with hopefully Netflix and Hulu. We'll see what happens there. I hope so.
Yeah. No, I hope so too. It's I'm doing my best to spread the message for you because I think there's so much more there than a movie about Rocky and a guy that likes Rocky. And I think we're discovering a lot of that today. And you know, you're a relatable guy, as is, you know, Rocky Balboa. And I think it's cool. I mean, it's got to be amazing too. Here you are as an 11-year-old kid, you fall in love with this character, this movie series. And then 40 years later, you're actually meeting the star of the movie.
Crazy. I just had this conversation with my father a few days ago. I called him to check in on him and my mom. And I said, "Could you imagine when I was like 13 or 14 years old and I was so bummed out? I really had no friends. I was always a square peg, round hole. I just could not fit in. I did have kids that I was friendly with, but I never had that connection. High school, nothing. I just never really fit in. So I said, "Dad, could you imagine if I could go back in time and just whisper in a 13-year-old Mike Kunda's ear and say, 'Hey, don't worry about it, kid. It's going to all work out beautifully.
Yeah.
You're not going to believe what's going to happen to you.'" But you can't. And I think maybe all of my life failures, which I failed at nearly everything I've ever tried, I've failed horrifically. And my wife has been there to see that. She has seen each and every one. Most times I did it to myself. I either overreached, underreached, or I just didn't give the dedication maybe that I should have. I was always like Luke Skywalker looking to the sky.
Yeah.
That was me. I knew there was something else that I could do. I just didn't know it could be Rocky. I mean, who thinks there's no Rocky lookalike job? There was no Rocky tour. I invented that. So, you know, it's just like Sly always says on many of his autographs, many of his videos, keep punching. And he's right. Just keep, even if you go down and you lose every single time, that doesn't matter. It's keep punching away at what it is you love. That's it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. You know, there's one scene in the you know, in the movie that I recall, and it's you standing in the middle of that restaurant, right? In Ohio, and I said, "Man, whew, that takes some guts to stand there." And you know, just again, how they captured it was pretty cool too, because there was a lot of people that didn't seem that interested. And I'm like, you know, you're saying here, hey, I don't have that much confidence and security, but I'm like, dude, to stand in the middle of a restaurant where nobody's sort of taking your bait and you're doing it anyway, that's going with the punches right there.
So I'm so glad you bring this up. Imagine blue collar area. You work real hard, 10-hour shifts every day. You really don't see your family that much. When you come home all week long, you're tired, you're aggravated. You get one night of the week, you go to this restaurant, and this is a really famous restaurant out there. And they're known for family getting together because everyone can just get caught up with each other.
Mm.
Now, the owner of the restaurant he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life, and he's a huge Rocky fan. So he comes up with Sylvester Stallone night, okay? And he reaches out to me. He sees what I'm doing, and he says, "Hey, you want to come out and pay and put you up and all this?" I go, "Sure." So we were right in the middle of filming The Pretender, and I called Jim Toscano, the director, and he comes out with his guys, and well, you see what you see. Now, I'm walking around and I'm looking at everything, and the guy that owns the restaurant, he's telling me his version or vision, I should say, of what he thinks is going to happen. I go, wait a minute, see, these people, they don't know I'm going to be here, but okay. So I go in and quiet. You can hear a pin drop. Nobody cares about a lame duck Rocky impersonator. Now, what the director did and the editor, Danny Janino, what they did, they were so much kinder to me in the movie by editing. It was worse than that.
Wow.
Oh, it was horrible. So
must have been brutal.
Oh, yeah. So now I see I have nobody. I mean, nobody's in the palm of my hand like they are in Philly. In Philadelphia, I get hired by corporate events, and I do 7,000 people. We open up the back doors about halfway through a night at the convention center in Philly. I come running through, the Rocky music's playing. I got the hat, the leather jacket, go up on stage. Yo, how you doing? Welcome to Philadelphia. You just do your shtick, okay? You walk around the room, you take pictures, you talk about Rocky for an hour. They're in the palm of your hand because you're in Philly. You're in Rocky Land. Well, I'm in Ohio. And, like, I'm sure there were Rocky fans there, but not on that night. So we go through, and as you see in the movie, I don't want to give too much away, but two people have pity on me. And these two people want me to come back out. I do a little song and dance for them. And all of a sudden, the restaurant, well, things begin to happen. It was amazing.
That's cool, man. It's hey, I guess if you stay in the fight long enough, right? The crowd tends to turn. It's like Russia. It's like winning in Russia.
That's it. All I needed was Drago yelling "Yes, yeah" in the corner. That's all I needed.
If I can change, then you can change.
You can change. Exactly. If you can laugh at me, we all can get along.
Yeah, that could have been how you ended the night.
I know, right? I know.
No, that's cool, man. You know what else I took to, and I see a lot of it behind you, is the art. I mean, let's go back, 11 years old, 20 years old, 21, did you see yourself as somebody that was art something that you did, or was it something inspired by a Stallone again?
No, art, no and yes. When I was a kid, because I had no friends, I really just didn't have any. I had to find ways to entertain myself. So I began drawing Andy Cap, Hagar the Horrible, Blondie from the comic strips.
Yeah.
And just self-taught. And then I would progress, and then in school you take art classes, whatever. So around this time, I began to realize Sly paints. And you can see over my shoulder right over there, that is a Sly replica painting where I began to try to imitate Sly. And I talk about this in The Pretender. And about halfway through painting that, I said, wait a minute. I don't want to imitate Sly. Let me delve into my own issues, because that's what Sly does. He puts a lot of his issues on the canvas, or issues of other people that he sees.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is one of my proudest works that I've ever done, is that. And I've got some other things here, Rambo, and I've got some stuff over here behind the desk. But yeah, that's I found art to be very therapeutic. It's like going to the gym. To me, banging the plates around, it's like a metal psychiatrist. Maybe for some people, it's their golf game.
Yep.
I know for my wife, it's purse hunting. So it's whatever gives you that escapism from your issues. And, so I say, if you've got a passion, just follow through with it. Enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I thought the art was great. I was actually one of the people I went on the website. I said, does this guy sell this stuff?
Oh, thanks.
So something to think about.
You know, it's funny right there. Can you see the black and white painting over my
Yeah.
head with Apollo?
Yep.
Okay, so I did that a couple years back, and on the set of Balboa, my wife told me to take that painting with me. She goes, "There's going to be hundreds of people there." She goes, "You need something to get the man's attention," because Sly and I weren't close like we are today
Yeah.
back then. So it's January 2006, and it's about 9 degrees out. And they were the scene I got my way on set to was where Rocky brings little Marie home from the
Okay.
bar, and he puts
Yeah.
the light bulb in.
Yeah.
Let there be light, huh? So I love that scene. We're in a dirt lot across the street, and Sly gets out. He shows up, and he gets out of the SUV, and he sees my painting, and comes right over. He goes, "Did you do this?" And so I explained to him what the painting meant to me. And so we were going back and forth. We talked about 15 minutes. Sly began sharing some stories with me as most of Northeast Philadelphia was on this corner smoking weed and drinking some booze right there on the corner. And everybody was wonderful. You know,
Yeah.
they were all like Sly had come down from the mountain with like Moses just telling us these stories. Anyways, I asked him to sign the painting, which he did. And he goes to hand it to me, and he pulls the painting back, and he goes, "I have one request." I go, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, he turns into a First Blood Rambo face, and he goes, "I don't ever want to see this painting on eBay," because he signed it. And I was just like, "Yeah, no problem. I'll never sell it." And then he hands it back to me, and he goes, "It's better than that." I thought, whoa, I didn't think the painting was good enough. And here Sly is telling me, "Don't sell this because I signed it. Keep it. And it's never going to be sold." So somebody said, "How about Prince?" And I go, "I don't know." Sly said he never wanted to see it on eBay. So I don't know.
Well, you know what? I actually like the colored one that you have right by the robe.
It's pretty sick. I love that. That was at a time in the early 90s when I was going through some upheaval. I couldn't hold a job and, arguing with my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time, but like you're just trying to figure it all out. You're in your early 20s, you're pretty stupid in your early 20s. At least I was. And
Yeah.
I had just barely figured out how to work Velcro, and I'm trying to figure out how to work life. And this wasn't happening. And so I painted that, and I thought, well, I started feeling better after that because I saw on the painting, boy, that's your issues. I couldn't write it down. I couldn't formulate a thought, but when I painted it, I could paint it out. And it began a change in my life. That's when I went to the police academy, and I was a police officer for a while. Things began to change, and I attribute a fair amount of it to the art.
Yeah. No, it's cool, man. It's amazing how we could sort of release ourselves of these locks that we have by finding these creative outlets, and who knows, man. Let's say you said, "Hey, I'm not going to be, the Rocky thing." Maybe you'd have a career as a painter. You just never know.
Yeah. And people say, "Well, why didn't you follow up on it? Your art is pretty good." I said, "Well, you have to understand something. In high school, when I was a senior, I only wanted to be like, I didn't think of a tour. I wasn't thinking of an impersonator. I wanted to be Rocky." Well, what does that mean? What does it mean? Like, if you wanted to be an Elvis impersonator, that makes sense. We
Yeah.
all know what that is, but you want to be Rocky. So my goal in life was to wear the hat and the leather jacket and walk around Philadelphia and get paid to promote Rocky. That's what I wanted to do. It didn't exist now, okay? So if that doesn't exist, you got to get a job. So I'd gone from job to job, and nothing had been working out. But the reason I didn't go to college, we didn't have the money, and I knew I would have to apply for all types of loans and whatever, and I wasn't mature enough to work through college. I just did not have that maturity. And maybe I could have been an okay artist. It was a passion for a very long time, and now writing has become my passion. Since my job now is, it's my dream job, and now I do a lot of writing, trying to find my niche there.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
No, that's cool. So I want to go. I got to go back just a half a step. You said go ahead, take the shot. um, you know, you said all these jobs didn't work out. Do you think that maybe they didn't work out? You know, they say everything happens for a reason. It seems
Yeah.
like for you, maybe you weren't really into any of those jobs. Were you doing those jobs because other people suggested, hey, Mike, why don't you do this? Or why don't you get your
Yep.
life together?
Yep. Yeah. There was one point I did the cop thing. The final straw, I was unloading Oriental carpets off the back of trucks and selling them in Scranton on the weekends.
Okay.
I was working with a painter and hanging drywall and stripping wallpaper. And my full-time job was pumping gas at a local gas station, second shift. 3 jobs for 7 years. And I began to feel a little tired. And my mother said, Michael, why don't you get your life together? And why don't you go to the police academy? And I
Mm.
remember laughing in her face. And I remember how hurt she was. And she goes, why are you laughing? She goes, you would be a good police officer. You're a fair-minded person. You're a good person. So I said, well, okay. I said, I'll look into it. Well, I graduated in the top of my class. I think I graduated second or third out of a class of 50. You have to understand that's a massive achievement for a guy like me because I graduated at West Scranton High School in 1986 at a D minus. that was my grade, a D minus. And the teachers just went, go, go. It was a gift to get out.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I just think none of that was, it just wasn't where and I talk about in The Pretender, corporate America, which at first wasn't bad. It was a pretty good paying gig for a guy like me with no education.
Mm.
Okay. But I always had a good work ethic, always worked very, very hard. Even though I wasn't particularly smart, I did believe in hard work. So I rose up, became a manager, and had done very well. 2008 happens. Boom, the economy kind of craps the bed. Middle management's always first to go.
Yeah.
It was bye-bye, Charlie. But at this point, I had been so frustrated with corporate. I had been so disillusioned. I became very angry and bitter. That's not me. That was the only time in my life I was so angry and bitter because you have to become someone that is more corporate based. I'm not. I'm anything but corporate.
Get out of
And
here.
what's that?
I said, get out of here.
Yeah. But we need corporate, right?
Right. We do.
They do lots of hiring, just not me.
Yeah.
I can't do
Yeah.
it.
Hey, but you were smart enough to realize it.
Yeah, after I was fired.
Yeah. Hey, whatever it takes, you know?
Yeah, maybe that won't be for me. So maybe I'll look for something else. Here's the problem. It's 2008. Nobody's hiring.
Nobody's hiring.
Whatever I would be eligible for, manual labor. There's no construction happening in 2008. That all shuts down. Retail's not hiring, very little retail. So what do? In 2006, I win a national Rocky lookalike contest that I didn't even enter in Philadelphia. So I take first place in this. This is where the life begins to change very drastically. And here we are. I'm talking to you
No,
in my Rocky basement.
no, it's cool, man. I like I said, I was fascinated by you just following your passion and following a dream that I would imagine, again, that most people, when you say, hey, I'm going to be Rocky, that most people aren't going to say, hey, Mike, that's great, man. That's really, you know, that's the career path that we saw you on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, my mother and father are like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. You know, because, you know, everybody wants the people who love you. They want the best for you, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
They realize nothing's going to happen for me anywhere else. The one thing I've been true to since I was a child has been this Rocky thing, okay? So when the opportunity comes along, you start to sniff around. You go, maybe I could do something like that. Okay, let's give this a shot. My life began to fall into place by accident, much like Forrest Gump.
Mm.
Forrest Gump stumbles into everything. That is exactly what happened to me. I began stumbling into these meetings with Sylvester Stallone. I began bumping into him. I began getting lucky going on the sets of Rocky Balboa and Creed, being able to speak to these people. It was the most amazing set of dominoes that kept falling into place. I didn't seek it out, but I recognized an opportunity. So in my book, Cue the Rocky Music, I write about what my definition of luck is. And it's practice meets opportunity. Everybody says, oh, wow, you're so lucky to be friends with Sylvester Stallone, and you're so lucky that he advertises for you for free and blah, blah, blah. I go, yeah, okay. But I say, here's the way I see it. My entire life, I've dedicated to this broken down, humble boxer, Rocky. Everything I could get my hands on that I could learn, everything I could do to watch him and emulate him. Now, I'm never going to go anywhere, but I do it because I love it.
Yeah.
Now I have an opportunity to go to this national Rocky lookalike contest in 2006. Well, I put everything I learned as Rocky into that moment. And when the other guys on the stage, who, by the way, looked better than I did, you see, they had one flaw. They were normal. my brain worked a little different. I saw myself for the hour of the contest as Rocky. I wasn't Mike. Those other guys were those other guys dressed as Rocky, okay? And they had the perfect Rocky hair. They had the deep gravel voice, the classic Roman nose, the muscles. They had everything. I didn't have any of that, okay? I had portions of that. But at the end, I saw myself as Rocky because I won it on one question. And that question was asked by the judges to all of the Rocky guys. Hey, Rock, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Now, any self-respecting Rocky fan would know 5 raw eggs. But these guys are not in the character mode. So the one guy says, oh, I had pancakes with my wife at, House of Pancakes. Another guy says, oh, I had oatmeal. Another guy says, oh, I had eggs and bacon. And the judge is like, no, you're Rocky. What does Rocky have? So they get to me, and I grab the mic, and there's a crowd of about 1,500 people in Love Park at lunchtime in Philly. And so I'd never done anything like this before. I never got up in front of a group of people. I was a corporate guy. So I said, yo, sounds great what they're saying over here with the pancakes, but it's like I have 5 raw eggs, but my doctor, he says don't eat that because of the cholesterol. So I just riffed on what Rocky made about the dangers of drinking raw eggs. And the judges loved it, the people loved it, and it was different. And so I won this silly little contest. And then that got me going on a road I probably never would have gone on.
Yeah, it's amazing. I believe that life is about sort of connecting these moments, and those moments, they build your confidence over and over and over again. And it sounds like, again, this contest, right? Like a regular guy doesn't care much about a Rocky contest or impersonation, but for you, that was that was your Super Bowl.
That's it.
And then, bam, you win it, and you feel like that champion. You put your hands up in the air, and now you're like, what's next?
That's it. Now you start to see, okay, maybe this could become some type of a reality, but it would be another 5 years before I would start doing tours. I would start immediately doing Rocky gigs. I had to get an agent, and we started getting gigs and doing very well with it. And so now I've been doing it full time for maybe 7 or 8 years. So that's a really good thing. Not right now because of COVID, but as soon as COVID goes, I'm going right back to work.
So again, I feel like your story, again, it just keeps evolving. And in a lot of ways, you sort of live in this dream, because there's people that are like, hey, how could I do what I love for a living and not care what anyone else thinks? That's number one. And then number two, how could I take that, and now I'm on TV, I'm in people's living rooms on a Saturday morning. You know what I'm saying? Like how did that whole thing happen?
So on the set of, I take my Rocky jacket off, I'm sweating. So on the set, I know. I get so when I talk, I
The
tend to
Italian side.
yeah, Jesus. So on the set of Rocky Balboa, I'm out there with my painting, and I meet this guy from Detroit whose name is Jim Toscano, and he's in Philadelphia for work, and he's on set, and we just struck up a friendship for like 8 hours, and then we follow each other online. It turns out he's a documentary filmmaker,
Wow, cool.
and he's always wanted to do a Rocky fan film. So the little he knew about me, he thought, okay, this could be interesting for, let's go down and film Mike for the day. We'll come away with 10 minutes of usable footage. We'll set it to some type of music, and we'll do a little fun documentary for my portfolio, his portfolio. And he quickly realized there was a lot more going on than that. So originally he thought it was going to be like a miniseries, like a 6-hour thing, because so much had happened.
Yeah.
And then he realized it was so big, he didn't know where to go with it. And he thought, instead of how he got here, let's focus on why he's here. And that is how The Pretender came to be. And over the course of 5 years, they came to Philly, Scranton and Philly several times. They would film, go back and edit. Because Coach, you got to understand, nobody's knocking on their door saying, can you do a film about a guy who thinks he's Rocky? Okay? Nobody wanted this. Nobody was asking for it. So these guys, Jim Toscano and his work partner, Danny Janino, they got to do like Auto Weekly. They do work with the Detroit Lions. They did that, how they paid the bills. So they had to work on this piecemeal.
Okay.
Finally, they said, it doesn't matter what's continued to happen in Mike's life. We got to draw a line. We got to put an end to this project. And it premiered in Detroit about 2 years ago. Then we went to, I don't know how many film festivals around the country. And then we got invited to Manchester, England. And we won Best in Show over there, which was amazing. So the last one we got invited to was the Beverly Hills Film Festival. And long story short, we won nothing because you're in with the big boys. But we got noticed by Gravitas, which is what they do. They put together these documentaries and they sell it as a bundle to streaming services. And they said, yeah, we think The Pretender can do something. So next thing you know, it's on Amazon, and my father's calling me crying, oh my God, my boy's on Amazon. You know, it's crazy. And
then I told you.
Right? Yeah, I told him. So
that's
here
cool. So this project started quite some time ago.
It did. Yeah, probably right around 11. Around 11. Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing too, because here it is, 2011. I'm sure, like, you know, you got this group that's filming you, and you know, you think you're gonna have this great documentary, and it's sort of like 8 years later it comes out.
Yep.
I mean, what's your thought process during this 8 years?
Okay, so day one of filming, the Jim and his crew, they rented a car and they came to my house and we drove into Philly. And my wife is sitting in the car. She's sitting in the back. Jim's sitting in the front. And he has this new camera. And he doesn't know how to work it. Okay? Here's a documentary filmmaker who doesn't know how to work the camera. And when he says this to us, 10 miles into the trip, I look in the rearview mirror and I see my wife. Okay? And she's like, this is crazy. So I said, well, you know, maybe the guy knows what he's doing, but it's a new piece of equipment, which is exactly what it was. It's just a new piece of equipment, and he just got it. So we go through the filming, and after the first 6 months, I just forgot about it. I let it go. I just said, well, probably not going to do anything. And then Jim would call, and we'd talk about what had been happening. He'd come back, I'll film some more. After about 5.5 or 6 years, I stopped harassing him. I just stopped calling him. I would call him and talk about the weather, Stallone's career. I just didn't ask anymore about it because I really liked the guy. He's a great guy. And then he said, Mike, the doc is all done. We're going to start going to film festivals. Now, he was on a shoot up in Seattle. He flies from Seattle to my house in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, about 2 hours outside of Philly. He drives in from the Philadelphia airport just to show my wife and I the movie. We're in 2 days, we're driving out to Detroit to premiere the movie in his hometown, Detroit, at a huge theater, which we had like 500 people in the theater. It was amazing. And it was fantastic. And the name, they could not name the doc for the longest time. And when Jim came up with the name The Pretender, I thought, that's it. I've been pretending my whole life. Perfect name. And that's
cool.
The short version of the history of The Pretender.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine during that time period, you still have to live your life and
Right.
pay the bills, and then on the horizon, you're hoping that this thing pops.
Yeah, you do. You really hope that something happens. But the thing about me is, my expectations are incredibly low. Not of myself, but of events around me. Because you know what, Coach? I can't control what anybody else does around me. All I can do is control my reaction to that. So whether it was a Rocky gig, whether it was a promise from a book publisher, or Jim Toscano and the Pretender filming, it's a poker in the iron, or it's an iron in the fire. And you take that hot poker out when it's ready. I never assumed any of them would be ready. I just left them in the fire. And it's funny. They were all hot at the same time years later.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it all worked. But the one thing I could never have counted on Sylvester Stallone and his generosity, his kindness, and his graciousness. I never expected that from him. And now he follows me on Instagram, and I'm proud to call him my friend. And I mean, I still, even now telling you, did I just say that? Did I just say that out loud? Weird.
No, it's cool though. It sounds like also the fact that you have that level of patience and sort of low expectations for external things, it allowed you to sort of just let things happen.
I was always worried about getting too depressed, because you get caught up in it. I don't get depressed. I'm not that guy. But if you are hanging on everybody around you who says they're going to do something and they don't, Jesus, I don't want to be any part of this. What do I even need? Let me just go back to corporate. I just said, look, I can't control anything. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But the one thing I would tell people, like, people always ask me for advice, like, how did you get to do what you do that you love? You got to check your toolbox. In other words, let's say you want to be a power forward for the 76ers, but you're 5'7". It's probably not going to work out for you. But what can you do? You can be the best damn trainer. You could be the best medic. You could be the best equipment manager for the 76ers. Maybe you can't be a player, but what can you do? Which is why I always tell people, to me, life is not about being the best in the world. It's about being the best in your world. And if you can find that balance, I think life is a very sweet spot for you at that point. So,
yeah. No, I love that. That's awesome. So tell me about your book. How'd you get going on that?
So when I got fired in 2008, looking for work, nobody was hiring. So driving from interview to interview, which I wasn't qualified for, I realized all the times I spent with Sly, I never said thank you in a meaningful way. In other words, I never really, I say, hey, Sly, thanks for the time or whatever, but I never really conveyed to him what Rocky meant or means to me. So I come home and I tell my wife, hey, I know what I'm going to do. I don't want my time off to count for nothing. I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to thank Sly. This book, I'm going to be as poetic as I can. And so she goes, honey, that's a great idea. She goes, there's just one very small, minute problem. you don't know how to write and you basically almost failed out of high school. I go, how hard can it be to write a book? Come on, everybody does it. Turns out very hard. But I find a way. I kind of Forrest Gump my way through it. Through 2 years, I write it. Now I got to get the book to Stallone because I could care less if it was on the New York bestsellers list. I didn't care if anybody bought it. I just didn't care. I just wanted to get this book to him. So we get the book published, and well, you have to watch the documentary to see if we get the book to him or not.
Yeah, yeah. No,
and that's it. It's a snippet. It's not all of my life failings. It's a lot of my failures, but it's things that have to do that are Rocky related. Because, you know, let's face it, nobody really cares about some guy from Scranton who hasn't done much with his life. Again, this was just a fan letter taken to the next level. But now with the Pretender and now with the legitimacy of my tours and my ranking of the tours and the people who reach out to me now there's a legitimacy about me that I never expected. Actually, I feel like I fooled everybody. It's like, you guys don't know, I'm just like this bum inside my head who's just living my little childhood dream. But it's enough for me, you know.
So tell us about the tours, because I know there's going to be a bunch of people that watch this that probably end up going through Philadelphia and they say, what do I do besides eat cheesesteak and watch those Phillies that couldn't beat the Yankees in 2009?
Hey, easy. All right. So you can go to my website, it's the Yo Philly Rocky Film Tour. And what we do, I usually pick people up at wherever they're staying within the city limits. And we drive around for about 3.5 hours. And we go to all of the major scenes and many minor scenes. And what I do, Stallone has told me a great deal of stories that happened during Rocky 2 that are not out there. You cannot find them in a book. You cannot find them on the internet. These can only happen if you were told by someone who had gone through it at the time. I have become friends with people who were in the original Rocky movie. They tell me the stories that happened. I had a lovely conversation with Carl Weathers. Burt Young invited me out to his house, who plays Paulie. And for 5 hours, I sat with Burt Young having a scotch, discussing Rocky and all of his stories from the movies. So I compile all of this on top of my knowledge about Rocky, and I tell people where those gray sweatpants came from that Stallone wore, why they were so short and tight on him, how he found the Rocky hat, what the genesis behind that was, what inspired him to even remotely think about a hat. Stories like that. And we go into many of the locations, some of the gyms. We go into the restaurant, the Victor Cafe. And I begin to tell them my own story of how I got to be where I am. Because it's, when I tell it in a very consistent format, I kind of lean it out because I only have 3 hours. 3.5 hours. When you write it all down on paper, it looks pretty decent. And we get out at several locations. Some locations we drive through for various reasons. And we always end at the Rocky Steps. And we run up the steps and we just pump our hands up in the sky, and you'll see hundreds of other people doing the same thing. But you know, Coach, it's something that it isn't necessarily because Rocky ran those steps. They draw inspiration from that. But a lot of people I take on tours, it's a bucket list. Maybe they just got fired. Maybe they just got hired, married, or divorced, got cancer, beat cancer. They are expressing themselves by running those steps, which they never thought they would do. I had these 4 loggers from British Columbia about 5 years ago. Now I'm only 5'10", and I'm about 200 pounds. So I'm very average in that respect. These guys were about 6'4" and had like oak limbs for bicep. Like, it was crazy how these guys were built. When they got to the Rocky Steps, they openly wept, not uncontrollably. So, and I said to the guys, I said, hey, Charlie, what's going on? Tell me what you're feeling. And he had told me about a particular failure in his life. And he would watch Rocky, and how that moment, it wasn't about the sport as because Rocky's a love story. It's not a sports movie. It could be argued the rest of the movies are. But the original Rocky movie is a deep love story. And Rocky does what he does because of his love for Adrian pushes him. He just happens to be a fighter. It could have been a businessman. It could have been a sanitation worker, whatever. And so this gentleman locked into that moment because of the love for Adrian that pushes Rocky past what he thought he could do. And this guy, he just lost his wife. So that's the connection. Yeah. And that's what we do on the tours. We're lots of laughing. People like to tell me about their stories, and I love to hear their stories, because think about what a privilege that is. These are complete strangers. And by the end of the tour, they're usually hugging and kissing and just telling me what an amazing time that they had. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way. They've given me 3 hours into their life. And I think, in what other job am I going to get that, where you can become so intertwined with someone? You go from this to this by the end of the tour. And it's just something I'm very proud of. Very, very proud of it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I was going to say, you leave people with a lot more than just a tour of the Rocky sites, you know?
Yeah, it's true, because I get them thinking about what inspired them. And when they see at the end of the tour, oh, wait a minute, you're doing this as a career. This is what you love. You know what? I wanted to open up a ice cream stand. I wanted to open up a hardware store. I wanted to go back and become the world's best dog trainer. People go back and they realize you're never too old or too young. Just keep trying, keep punching, keep pursuing, keep that dogged determination alive. Because if you don't have determination, what do you got? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's great. Listen, it sounds like a very motivational experience. You know, people come to you, maybe, again, I always say that even with coaching, we never know where people come from. We don't know what they're dealing with, what they're really dealing with, you know, but after 3.5 hours, like you said, they come on your tour, you really get to understand why they're there. And it's oftentimes for more than just to see the steps.
You know what? You bring up a really good point. There's, okay, like, so you're a great trainer. You know a hell of a lot about all of that. How many trainers are on the internet? Thousands of trainers are on YouTube all over the place. There's one guy, Jeff Cavaliere, that has gone to the next level.
Yeah, he's one of my buddies.
I know that. I saw the picture with you too. Please tell him I adore him. I have a brain crush on Jeff Cavaliere. He is beyond anything. He's so humble and down to earth. Like, I told my wife, I said, you got to watch this guy. He draws on his body with the markers. And my wife, I play YouTube for her. And she goes, oh, my God, he's just another goofball with his shirt off with a great body. I go, no, he's such a humble guy. He's a great guy. And she was like, oh, my God. So my point is, Jeff has taken his love of physical fitness and has become one of the premiers to stand out on that level, like yourself and several others that are really tops in their groups. That's amazing. So pass that on to Jeff. Tell him I'm a big fan.
I will.
Take the tour.
I'll send them the clip. But no, I just think it's amazing how sort of you've stacked all of this together, and it's sort of it's really like who you are. Every piece of it it's like got a piece of you in it. You know, it's like it's everything aligns, like you said, perfectly, which I think is cool.
My brain feels like a human Rubik's Cube. My whole life, none of the colors added up. I really saw myself as a loser joke. That is how my wife hates when I say that. But I think it's important to know yourself. I think it's important to I don't know if I'm trying to say it's important to know your boundaries, but it's just, I don't know, make sure you're capable of what it is you're reaching for. You know, so when it comes to this Rocky stuff, it's the one area of my life where I haven't failed. I feel I've put every ounce of effort, every ounce of knowledge I have into this thing, this
Yeah.
tour, the Rocky gigs, and I'm just happy.
No, I think that's isn't that the goal, right? Everything we're searching for in order to actually find happiness.
100%.
You know, but so how would you say, since this doc is out there now, The Pretender, people are obviously taking to it, it's climbing the ranks.
Yeah.
How has Mike's life changed as a result of this?
It really hasn't. I'm, I still don't have any friends. I mean, there are people I know. My family really are my friends.
Yeah.
My brother-in-laws, my sister-in-laws, that's my friends. I'm really into my nieces and nephews. I've got 5 nieces and nephews, and I love them dearly. And I work so much. We do 2 tours a day. We usually book about 6 months to a year in advance, just in
Wow.
case anybody. Yeah, when we started. Okay, when I started doing these tours, we used to do them on a big yellow school bus. We would do maybe 1 or 2 a year. Then we started doing private tours about 6 years ago. I would do maybe 20 a year. And I was at Sherwin-Williams delivering paint. Okay, and I would do these tours little by little. I thought, okay, that's nice. And then over the next 3 years, I built it to where I would do about 15 tours a month. More than enough to
Yeah.
pay my bills and contribute to the savings account. My wife works full time and she has the medical benefits. Okay. So then Sylvester Stallone endorses me on the tours a couple years back. And I didn't ask him to do that. I go from 15 or 18 tours a month to about 150 requests a month.
Wow.
Okay. So now the last couple of years, I do around 35, 40 tours a month. Again, not during COVID, but, and that's it. That's my life. And it just, every year the business grows, it gets better and better. And I never advertised once. I never paid for advertising anything. I mean, I just word of mouth and the internet. I mean, it's all free on the internet. I mean,
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Very cool, man. Very, very cool story about following your passion and sort of like moving it seems like all the things that you didn't like, it was like resistance. You were facing friction and resistance, and you started to spin out of that and move towards that pathway that was free. It was like the open road for you, which was the
Burt Young
thing.
You just reminded me of something Burt Young told me. When we were sitting there, he said he never really had a lot of ambition in life. Ambition didn't drive him. He said his life was like bumper pool. He would be the ball. And as he's going, he'd hit the bumper. And it would say, you can't go this way. You got to bounce that way.
Yep.
Then he would hit the side of the table. And he would bounce back this way and hit another. What he meant was, where life takes you, where does it take you? Go with it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Go down that road. Because you can always go back to shake and paint at the store.
Yeah.
You can always go back to stocking shelves at a grocery store. But life has put this path in front of you. Are you brave enough to take it? Of course, he whacked down some scotch after he said that and turned into Paulie, and it was great. We had a great time. I'm telling you, it was fantastic. But I never forgot that. So, maybe it's not about being a driving force and smashing through bricks. For some people, maybe it is. Or maybe we take a portion of that and a portion of the bumper pool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how we get through life. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, I think we all are. I think we're figuring out until the end, right? That's sort of how it works. What would you say when you think of a guy like Sly? What's the most? How has he impacted you the most? Like now that you've met him, like what would you say is the biggest thing that you take from him?
Self-deprecation is one. Sly's always making fun of himself. Always. Yeah. He's really huge with self-deprecation. The other thing, I guess I always knew it. It's determination. And I just sent him something. I'm really interested. I want to see what he sends back. Who is there for him when Rocky's down? When Sylvester Stallone had hit a hard patch. Who lifted him up? What was there for him? Because it's kind of a weird thing. He probably doesn't go back and watch Rocky. I mean, maybe he does, but I want to know that. That's the one thing I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, who lifts him up? Is it his wife? Is it his children? Does he find some resonance back inside himself again? Because nobody wanted Rocky Balboa made. They said, no, Rocky 5 was horrible. You're 60 years old. Are you insane? Nobody wants to see a 60-year-old Rocky. And he showed them all how wrong they were. Yeah. Rocky Balboa was a beautiful fitting end to the Rocky saga. But nobody wanted that made. So I guess the thing I take from him is determination. Just keep going. Don't stop when people, like he tells his son, you know, you forget who you are. People poke a finger in your face and you think you're no good. You got to get past what people say, you know, and got to dance to your own music, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love that. What would you say? What's next for you?
Would you believe there's no gift shop in Philadelphia with just Rocky merchandise?
Wow.
They got Declaration of Independence and Liberty Bell salt and pepper shakers out the wazoo. There's snow gloves, T-shirts, books, you name it. Stuffed bells, Ben Franklin's. There are Rocky things there, but very little. I've always wanted to open up a Rocky-themed memorabilia gift shop.
Cool.
And I told Sly my idea, and he loved it. He loved it. Is it ever going to happen? I don't know. I'm not the world's greatest business guy. I'm like on-screen talent to show up and entertain and come home. I run these little tours. It's just me. I don't know. I probably won't get to that, but, you know, who knows?
You never know, right?
I just want to get back to work, honestly.
Yeah.
I miss my tours because it gives such deep purpose for me. I think as humans, we need to have that purpose.
Right.
I mean, you can only sit and watch the Three Stooges on AMC so long. You know what I mean? I love the Three Stooges, but I can only sit here in my Rocky basement looking at my art for so long. I got to get back to my purpose, which is to keep Rocky flowing in the world. That's just my thing.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I end every show with this question. You know, I believe that every person has a champion inside of them. It's their job to bring it to life. It sounds like you have. But what does the word champion mean to you?
Just not being a coward. That's the thing. And I don't necessarily mean in the physical sense.
Yeah.
That clearly we think of champions, Michael Jordan, you know, whoever the heavyweight champ is right now in the 37 divisions, I don't know, but that's the physical thing. Mentally, to be a champion, life keeps hitting us all the time. To get past that fear, whether it's a disease, whether it's someone in your family who's left, a divorce, whatever it is, to go past that fear mindset. That is what a champion is to me. It's simple and basic.
No, I love that, man. That's really cool, and I think a lot of people will definitely appreciate that. That's powerful stuff. That's for sure.
Thanks. Well, listen, Rocky has rubbed off on me. I've seen it over 600 times, the original Rocky. So, you know, no life. I couldn't get girls to date me in high school, so Rocky was always there.
You know what? It's funny. I always find so just so you know, I stopped streaming just now. But it's interesting because a lot of people you go to school with, you know, you see like the cool kids and the cool groups. You know, when you look back, you know, when you look at them now, it's always those underdogs that find their way up to the top. I was the same way. I didn't like, you know, there were a lot of Friday nights I'd be sitting with my mother talking about, you know, or I'd get blown off from friends and I'd be sitting home. She's folding laundry and she's like, don't worry about those people. You do your own thing in life. And it's powerful.
It's very, very powerful. And one quick story before I let you go, and I think you'll recognize yourself because what you were just saying, I'm saying to myself, that's exactly what I'm going to tell you. So when my book came out 10 years ago, 12 years ago, however long it was, Scranton had a big book festival, and they had all kind of famous writers there. And
Yeah.
so I had been recently on the news, and they had me, hey, you want to come down and do a live reading and sell your book in there? So, okay, yeah, sure, great. So at my tent, a lot of kids I went to school with, the schoolyard bullies, the pretty girl in high school who said, no, go away. I don't want to date you. Okay. These people showed up. First thing I said, like when I saw some of the girls, oh, boy,
Ooh.
did I dodge bullets.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's
Okay.
true, right?
And I remember one guy who used to push me around. He comes down and he goes, my God, he goes, look at you. He goes, you've really stuck to your love of Rocky. He goes, this is amazing. And he goes, how did you do it? And I held up my book and I go, it's in the book. It's in here. Read the book. So, but yeah, that's just it. Now look at you now. You're so successful now. You're doing what you love, and you get a lot of people that admire you personally. So, you know, it, moms are right. They know it's stuff. High school doesn't matter. Like at the time, high school thinks we think high school is the end all be all.
Yeah.
But not
But it's
so.
not. No way, man. It's what you do every single day of your life that determines who you become and who you are.
Exactly.
You know, which is cool.